$100 million in debt? Sentenced? Goodbye forever. The internet is flooded with shocking claims about Meghan Markle, but what's actually happening is far more complex and revealing than the clickbait suggests. This is Royal Daily Report, separating fact from fiction. Good day, viewers. Welcome to Royal Daily Report, your trusted source for accurate, in-depth coverage of the British royal family. I'm your host, and today we're cutting through the misinformation to examine what's really happening with Harry and Meghan's finances, their businesses, and why so many dramatic but false claims are spreading online. We believe in facts over sensationalism. Before we begin this detailed analysis, please subscribe to Royal Daily Report and turn on notifications to ensure you're getting accurate information in an era of misleading headlines. Now, let's examine the reality. Main script. Look, you've probably seen the headlines, right? Meghan Markle, $100 million in debt, just got sentenced. Goodbye forever. It's all over your feeds. These wild, dramatic claims that sound like something out of a bad movie. But here's the thing. When you actually dig into what's happening with Harry and Meghan, it's a lot stranger and frankly more interesting than those dramatic clickbait titles. Because while they're not sitting on a mountain of debt or facing some secret courtroom sentence, they are absolutely in some serious trouble. And it's not the kind of trouble you can easily spin your way out of. Let's start with the elephant in the room, their public relations nightmare. Over the past 5 years, Harry and Meghan have gone through 11 publicists. 11. Think about that for a second. In an industry built on managing difficult personalities and nonstop pressure, where PR professionals are literally trained to calm volatile situations, that kind of turnover is a massive red flag. It tells you something deeper is going on than just bad luck or a few mismatched personalities. It screams of a working environment so challenging that even seasoned pros decide it's just not worth the effort. Take Meredith May, for example. She joined as their chief communications officer in March 2025 with 2 decades of experience. Google, Hulu, the whole 9 yards, a highly respected, well-connected person in Hollywood. She stepped down in December after only 10 months. That's not a good sign, and it happened right around the same time their US-based PR firm, Method Communications, chose not to renew their contract. And what followed was even more telling. Several top American PR agencies reportedly declined to take them on as clients at all. Not because they were busy, but a direct refusal. Entertainment reporter Rob Shooter hit the nail on the head when eMusic said agencies saw them as high maintenance and unwilling to spend what's expected for clients of their profile. You know, reputation management for A-listers is expensive for a reason. These systems don't function on a reduced budget. Former staff members have described this dynamic as one of constantly shifting expectations and unclear direction. It's not just the relentless press attention that's the problem. It's the difficulty of meeting constantly changing demands from Harry and Meghan themselves. In PR, consistency is key. Its strategies only work if clients agree on goals and let professionals do their job. When priorities suddenly move and decisions reverse without warning, even the best teams are stuck in permanent damage control. This chaotic pattern isn't just in their PR. It shows up at their charitable organization, Archwell, too. From 2020 to 2024, 18 staff members left. James Holt, a longtime advisor who'd worked with Harry for nearly a decade, left in December 2025. Then Archwell restructured, laying off junior employees right before the holidays. Reports say it's now operating with a skeleton staff, relying largely on one senior figure doing multiple jobs. Their financial filings for 2024 showed them spending $5.1 million, while only bringing in $2.6 million, making up the difference by draining reserves. A lot of that money went to outside agencies for strategy and communications, not direct grants. And then they promoted a London-based staffer to oversee California operations. A move widely seen as a cost-cutting measure, not a strategic one, especially with an 8-hour time difference. Without strong, stable PR, problems just compound. New projects become harder to sell, negative stories linger, and brands already cautious tend to avoid figures who divide public opinion. So if nobody will work with them, who's watching their content? That leads us to the content catastrophe. When they first partnered with Netflix, everything worked. The Harry and Meghan documentary series in December 2022 was a massive hit, pulling in 81.6 million viewing hours in its first week. People were curious. It felt exclusive, personal. But once that royal drama curiosity was satisfied, the momentum evaporated. Projects like Live to Lead with interviews featuring Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Gloria Steinem barely registered. It never even made Netflix's top 10. Viewers weren't looking to them for lessons on leadership. They were there for the personal drama. Heart of Invictus in 2023, despite the emotional subject and Harry's genuine care for the cause, only drew around 300,000 views. It struggled with focus, never quite deciding if it was about the athletes or Harry's role. Even Pearl, an animated series Meghan developed, got cancelled during production. Then came With Love Meghan, a lifestyle series that was well-produced but ranked 389th among all Netflix titles in early 2025. Polo, executive produced by Harry, attracted only about 500,000 viewers out of 260 million subscribers. Reviews were harsh, calling it dull and overly focused on wealth. Spotify told a similar story. They signed a reported $20 million deal in 2020, and Meghan's podcast Archetypes launched in August 2022 with big-name guests. But after one season of 12 episodes, Spotify ended the partnership in June 2023. Music executives hinted the output didn't match the investment. The pattern is stark across every platform. Massive initial curiosity, one big success, but that interest never turned into a loyal audience. Once the royal drama was told, viewers didn't stick around for leadership talks, lifestyle shows, or sports coverage. The streaming giants aren't saying Harry and Meghan are bad people. They're saying something potentially worse. Nobody cares, and if nobody's watching, who's paying the bills? The financial reality, they're not sitting on $100 million in debt, despite what you might hear. But that absolutely doesn't mean money isn't a real concern for them right now. The pressure comes from how fast their income has dropped compared to how incredibly expensive their life still is, and that makes the next year super important. Back in 2020, they were pulling in massive attention and even bigger deals. Between Netflix and Spotify alone, the estimated total value attached to their names was around $120 million. That kind of money created the impression that they'd never have financial worries, but those deals were always limited in time. Spotify was the first big relationship to end. They signed a reported $20 million deal in 2020, but it only produced one podcast series, Archetypes, which launched in August 2022 and ran for just 12 episodes. By June 2023, Spotify walked away from the partnership. Whatever money hadn't already been paid out was simply gone, and the public nature of that split made it way harder for them to attract new audio partners willing to invest at the same crazy level. Netflix is heading the same way now. Their deal is expected to end in 2026, and there's been no announcement of a renewal or a replacement agreement. While the exact numbers were never disclosed, industry insiders have said the arrangement included steady producer fees and development funding that likely brought in millions each year. Without a new long-term streaming deal, that reliable income stream just disappears. Any future Netflix work would probably be project by project, which offers exposure but zero financial security. In Harry's book Spare was a huge success when it came out in 2023, selling about 1.4 million copies on its first day in major English-speaking markets. Celebrity memoir advances are often estimated between $20 and $40 million, making that book a major one-time payout. The challenge is that it was exactly that, a one-off. A second memoir would almost certainly sell fewer copies because the most dramatic parts of their story are already public, and readers tend to lose interest once the shock wears off. While their income has slowed down, their expenses absolutely have not. Their Montecito home cost $14.65 million and now comes with roughly $1 million a year in running costs. Property taxes alone were about $112,000 in 2023, and that figure has risen steadily. On top of that, there's insurance, utilities, and the upkeep of an 18,000 square foot house sitting on more than 5 acres. Real estate experts have compared managing a property like that to running a small hotel, complete with cleaning staff, maintenance workers, and groundskeepers. Security is another unavoidable cost. Estimates for full-time private protection for high-profile figures like them range from $2 to $4 million a year, with some experts placing it even higher. Given their global visibility and the level of controversy surrounding them, this isn't an area where they can realistically cut corners. There are also ongoing business and legal costs. Even with Archwell operating on a reduced staff, basic operations and professional fees can easily run into hundreds of thousands each year. Harry's legal battles with British media groups and his appeal over UK security arrangements add substantial legal bills on top of that. Put it all together, And conservative estimates place their annual spending somewhere between $5 million and $7 million, possibly more. With their biggest income sources gone, they are likely dipping into savings while trying to build something new. Meghan's lifestyle brand has shown early interest with products selling out quickly, but building a profitable consumer brand takes heavy upfront investment and time. Early demand doesn't mean immediate cash flow. Their charitable foundation now needs funding rather than producing it, and recent restructuring points to tighter budgets. Speaking engagements could still bring in large fees, but their polarizing image limits demand. They aren't broke and they own valuable assets, but they are facing a familiar problem seen with athletes and celebrities who earn fast and spend big. The debt rumor is fiction, but the financial squeeze is very real. So, if the money's running out and the deals are dead, what exactly did the internet get wrong about that whole sentencing thing? Let's debunk the lie. Understanding what's fabricated in this narrative reveals how misinformation spreads and why distortion often overshadows reality. The idea that there is $100 million of debt comes from a basic misunderstanding of how entertainment deals work. That number was never debt, never cash sitting in a personal bank account, and never money that needed to be paid back. It was the reported value of the Netflix content deal, signed in 2020. And that value covered years of production costs, development budgets, and compensation tied to projects made through their production company. In entertainment, those big headline deal numbers don't mean someone gets that money in their pocket. They usually describe the total amount a company plans to spend over time on making the shows, paying crews, covering marketing, and compensating talent, not a single personal paycheck. Big production deals spread their reported value across many project budgets instead of paying it all directly to the talent. Netflix funded Archwell Productions to make content, paying producer fees and giving creative control, while most of the money went to production costs, staff salaries, and development work. Industry estimates suggest that in deals like this, personal compensation usually lands somewhere between 10 and 25% of the total reported value, spread out over several years. That still represents substantial compensation, while falling dramatically short of headline figures. Treating that number as personal cash or debt is simply wrong. When the Netflix deal ends in 2026 without a renewal, it doesn't mean money is suddenly owed or that there has been a financial collapse. It means a contract has reached its natural conclusion. Netflix has been stepping away from long exclusive deals across its business, choosing instead to fund projects individually. This shift has affected many creators, not just Harry and Meghan. From Netflix's point of view, the company has already received what it wanted, which was a burst of attention and content tied to global curiosity. The other claim that keeps spreading is the idea of sentencing, and that one relies on confusion around legal language. Meghan Markle has not been criminally sentenced, convicted, or charged with any crime. There's been no trial, no judgment from a criminal court, and no punishment imposed by a judge. Even so, the word sentencing keeps appearing because it triggers strong reactions online. Words connected to crime and punishment drive clicks far more effectively than accurate descriptions. Creators learn that legal language sparks emotion before people stop to think. When viewers see dramatic words tied to a famous face, they react quickly, and that reaction feeds algorithms. More clicks lead to more visibility, which encourages even more exaggerated framing. Over time, repetition creates belief, even when there is nothing behind it. Prince Harry's ongoing involvement in civil court cases adds fuel to that confusion. In early 2025, he reached a major settlement with a media company over unlawful information, gathering reportedly worth tens of millions of pounds. He won that case and the company paid him. Still, the repeated mention of courts and lawsuits created an atmosphere that made it easy for online narratives to imply wrongdoing where none existed. He currently has 2 active legal actions. One involves a privacy case against a newspaper publisher scheduled for trial in 2026. The other is an appeal over the withdrawal of publicly funded security in the United Kingdom. In both situations, he is the one bringing the case, not defending himself against criminal accusations. These civil proceedings carry financial and reputational stakes rather than criminal penalties, a distinction that fundamentally changes their nature and potential outcomes. What people often mistake for sentencing is actually something else entirely. It is a professional and social judgment. Public relations firms declining to work with them, streaming platforms choosing not to renew deals, and brands keeping their distance are all forms of market decision-making. These outcomes have real consequences for income and influence, but they are not imposed by courts or law enforcement. The danger in mixing these ideas is that it distracts from the real issue. Criminal punishment removes freedom and leaves lasting legal consequences. What is happening here is reputational damage and shrinking opportunity, which comes from industry choices and public response. That situation is serious, but it can change with different decisions and a better strategy. The more interesting story is not about imaginary crimes, but about why so many doors are quietly closing at the same time. But here's what's really fascinating. Why are millions of people believing and sharing these fake headlines in the first place? Why we're watching. Yeah, that concludes our fact-based analysis of the Harry and Meghan financial situation. The truth is complex. They're not in criminal trouble or facing massive debt, but they are facing real financial pressure and a severe crisis of public trust and professional relationships. Royal Daily Report is committed to bringing you accurate information, not sensational fiction. If you appreciate factual reporting that cuts through the noise, subscribe to Royal Daily Report and enable notifications. Share this report with anyone who's been misled by clickbait headlines. For Royal Daily Report, I'm your host. Stay informed with facts, not fiction, and we'll see you in the next report. Thank you for watching.